Wow.
And I just thought it was a sort of a stepping stone. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go. I'm still scoring my movies.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, yeah, I'll be here for a little while. I'll learn the business. 7 years later, I've built all the recording studios, I'm managing all their internal and external development and all their worldwide stuff for all their titles. And so then in 98, 99, Electronic Arts came in and bought us out, and I became their audio director for their EA Pacific division. And after a year, I was like, you know what, I got to start my own thing. And so I started PCB, and the rest has been just all a roller coaster since then. It's been fantastic. And
at PCB, we just had a brief tour. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
This is an amazing studio. So besides video games, I know you dabble in some other things. Movies, for instance, correct?
Well, films are kind of like the next progression of things, because my background in music kind of led to doing dialogue recording, and I was writing a lot of stuff anyway, and so I started writing a lot of projects, and I was always very visually inspired for all the music videos that I was directing and doing all that kind of stuff for the bands anyway. And I always loved graphic novels and being able to storyboard all my stuff out. So I started doing a lot of boards for a lot of the projects that I was writing, and that sort of led into doing graphic novels, and the graphic novels turned out to be great presentation materials to get the films going. So over the past 3 or 4 years, I've started to create this whole sort of wave of graphic novels that are becoming motion pictures.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about some of your graphic novels. I see you have a couple here with you.
Yeah, so Ascend was the first one. This one was actually the thing that got everything started. It was a dream that I had. This was about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was traveling with my wife, and we were out the farthest remote reaches of the planet. We were up in the Arctic Circle on this little boat in the middle of nowhere. I had no internet, I had no phone, I had nothing. Because I work like 20-hour days, and I'm working 7-day weeks, and just constantly I'm attached to my phone, and so being in the middle of nowhere, you're just cut off from the internet and everything else. So I went to bed around 11 o'clock, and it's pitch black. I mean, you can't see anything in this room. And 4 o'clock in the morning, just like wake up, and I just dreamt this entire story. And usually I'll have like a big epic dream like this about once a year. It's like once a year something happens where it's just like watching a film. It's not me coming up with this. I'm just channeling whatever it is, and it's just I'm watching a movie in my sleep. And that's what this thing was. And this thing was just like so big and so epic. And so I went to Valerie, my wife, and I shook her awake, and I'm like, I got to tell you the story. And so I just sat there for like 20 minutes, and I just like told her in the pitch black. I'm just telling her the story, and it's about these angels and demons, and they're harvesting souls from earth to reinforce these legions in heaven, and this whole epic struggle between these two brothers in the middle of the backdrop of this huge war. And I finished the whole story, and she's silent, and I'm like, did you just fall back asleep? and she was just like stunned. She's like, you just dreamt that? And I was like, I didn't have that story when we went to bed. And she's like, this one you're writing down. And so, but the fact that I just told her that, I just had the images cemented in my head. And so I started like scouring everywhere I could go to find artists to kind of get this. Because I have an art background, but not to the level of what I could see in my head. And so I went down actually to Comic-Con, and I met with all these other artists, and I went through Artist Alley at Comic-Con, and I started just meeting with all these really great talented artists. And there was this one guy, Christopher Shy, who I don't think he'd ever even shown it at Comic-Con before. I hadn't done any novels of this size. And I saw some of his artwork, and I was like flipping through his stuff, and I'm like, I got to work with this guy. And so anyway, and it's expensive to find an artist who's like that caliber to be able to work on a book that was like this big. I mean, just the concept of this thing is so huge. It's not like it's going to be a little 22, 24 page comic. It's
right.
Gonna be,
this is a big piece of work right here.
So the thing is that so the idea was that the entire book, I wanted it. I was really inspired. Years ago, I had read Arkham Asylum. And Dan McKean's stuff, I mean, every page, there's no ads, and the whole thing was just completely painted. So I wanted to have something where every page, could be, a cover. And actually one of the most literal images was this. It's like right out of the dream where, this angel, she's been banished to Earth, and these wings like rip out of her back, and she's being called to harvest this woman that's been killed in this car crash. And so the thing was that all this imagery was just literally right out of the dream. And so I was like kind of sketching it, and I was talking to Christopher, and he was just channeling this dream. And the weird thing was that I couldn't finish couldn't just finish this book until I could actually get these images out of my head, and that was the problem. It's like, and that's sort of the curse and the blessing that I've got, is that sort of I got these images that'll get trapped in my head until I can get them out. I can't stop until it's finished. So what this did is, after this book was finished, I could suddenly put that dream to rest, and I could like stop getting these images and being plagued out of my mind. But this book, so after I was finished with it, I was in a meeting, and I was meeting with my friend Jimmy Palomati, and Jimmy's a longtime graphic novel writer and artist, and just a really super talented guy. And I was telling him, I said, yeah, I was interested in maybe using these as boards, for a film. And he said, dude, this is a graphic novel. And the next day, I had a contract on my desk from Image Comics to do a distribution deal to do the book. And so we did it as a trade paperback, and we did a 5-year print run with Image, and we had been at Comic-Con, we had announced that we were going to do the book, and the book came out, and in the first 4 days, the entire 5-year run sold out.
Wow!
Nationally, just gone. And it was, suddenly we were off on this huge roller coaster ride. All the artwork and everything that we did was all digital, so then we started creating all these motion comics. So I started animating these. I brought in all my friends, all the celebrities and voice actors that we work with on all the big video games that I'm already directing, and started doing motion comics. And that's now turned into a whole new thing, because I'm doing animatics for the movies, but now people want to just buy the animatics as little downloadable comics. So I think that's going to be the next sort of evolution of what we're doing. So
nice.
it's a hybrid between the games that we're already doing and the books that are already doing in print, but we're going to kind of do it that way. So it's a real cool way to sort of express what you want to do, and not just be shackled as being just a comic book writer.
That's really awesome. Now, you guys, your studios worked on tons and tons of titles. What are some of the big titles you guys are working on right now?
The ones
the ones that you're allowed to speak of.
Right now, we're gearing up for Call of Duty Black Ops. That's going to be just the most amazing launch ever.
I'm totally excited for that too, by the way.
It's coming out, and it is going to be just huge. It's just, I've worked with that one in particular. I've worked with both the development teams, Infinity Ward and Treyarch, over the years on the whole Call of Duty franchise. I came on board Call of Duty 2 was the first one I started on, and working as their talent director, and working with all the performers and the script and casting all the celebrities and bringing everyone in, and it's been a wild ride. It's just been fantastic, and this new one is just the best ever. It's so big and so amazing. The story is great, and the performers are great, and the actors, which unfortunately haven't been announced yet, but the actors that are on board are just phenomenal. We've gotten great performances. So that one's going to be the big one. We just wrapped up all the motion capture on Red Faction Armageddon, which is going to be coming out.
Yes!
Which is going to be awesome. And, we had a really good time with that team, the Volition team that did that, and THQ has been fantastic. We did Darksiders and a whole bunch of games with THQ this last year. So we're doing a couple new titles that are going to be coming out with THQ as well. There's a couple that are... We're in the middle of production right now, and they just haven't been announced because it's going to be about a year out. War for Cybertron just hit, and that's been doing very, very well for Transformers, which is great. And it had nothing to do with the film, but it was more of an origin story, so that one's been really, really good. But in the meantime, right now we're... as if we weren't already busy enough, we've got all of our graphic novels that are hitting. So our new Dead Speed book just came out. Infex, which is our other one that just came out. Those are 2 new graphic novels that we're doing. And we're actually about to make some announcements. Some celebrities are becoming attached to those. So we're going to start making those announcements probably by the New York Comic-Con, which is going to be October, in about just over a month and a half from now. And so that's going to be really cool. And by around November, there should be some announcements about Frostroid, which is the first film I'm going to be directing.
Awesome. Now, last question for you, Keith.
No problem.
Do you consider yourself a nerd?
Absolute geek nerd. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No. It was funny growing up. That was the thing. It was like that was always like kind of like the bad term, and like now it's like it's a good thing, right? Because
nerds are totally in.
Yeah, totally. I love it. And you see these totally hot chicks walking around Comic-Con with this shirt that says "I love nerds." Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Now, Keith, what's the website? How can we see your?
There's a couple things you can check out. There's PCB's site, which is PCBProductions.com. There's Ascend, which is at preparetoascend.com. The new book Dead Speed with Mr. Yuri Lowenthal on the cover. That's dead-speed.com. And I think I've got Infex over here. And that's Infex. A full metal covered graphic novel. This is more of an anime style graphic novel, more of a Japanese influence on this one. And this is infex.tv. So those are the main sites that you can find stuff at right now. There's a whole bunch of hidden websites. We got some ARGs that are going on with Infex and a couple of our projects, so you'll find those kind of buried in the site, so we don't give those away too easily, but you'll find them. And I think ARGs are going to be kind of like the next big wave that you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff. We have one that's been happening on with InGen Bio for our Infex project over the past year, and we've had over 300,000 people following the story and coming in and out of our websites and Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else. So it's kind of cool. Hey, this is Keith Arem from PCB Productions, and you're watching TalkNerdyToMeLover.com.
Woo!
That's right.
Look at me, just called to say that it's good to be alive in such a small world. I'm all curled up with a book to read. I can make money, open up a thrift store. I can make a living off a magazine. I can design an engine, 64 miles to a gallon of gasoline.